the Okaloosa County Board of County Commissioners. We're going to open this morning with an invocation by Pastor Jason Allen from Woodlawn Baptist Church. And we're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning by the Okaloosa County EMS Honor Guard. Thank you. You can be seated. And I do appreciate Pastor and our honor guard both coming. I know it takes just a few moments at the beginning of the meeting to open with a prayer and to say the Pledge of Allegiance, but it's important to take that time to remember our God and to remember our country. So I appreciate you all bearing with us as we do that. Now, before we move on to the county administrator's update, I want to take a moment to remember something else, or someone else, rather. I have a presentation for our 2025 chairman, Paul Mixon, who is now our immediate past chair. And I'm going to call him down for a picture. He doesn't get too embarrassed about that. Ed's ready, camera to go. But I want to thank him for his service over the last year. I think he did a wonderful job leading our county. We've had many great successes. And he also said that as immediate past chair, he's agreed to take on all complaints in 2026. So feel free to reach out to Paul Mixon. So, thank you. Paul, if you'll join me around the front there. right. We'll turn now to the county administrator's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, I'll be very brief. I just wanted to remind the board that our next meeting on January 20th, the South meeting in Shalimar, will take place at 1:30, and that's because it follows a holiday. So 1:30 meeting in Shalimar on the 20th. Thank you, sir.
All right. Ms. Hoshihara, county attorney's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no updates other than to wish everyone a happy new year, and here's to a great 2026.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
No update from the clerk's office. Just happy to be here. Thank you.
We'll take it. Yeah, we've had updates from you before, so. Public comments. I have 3 cards that I believe are pertaining to public hearings, and so those will not be called at this time. They'll be called during the relevant public hearing on the agenda. So I'll go with the cards that indicate that they're not here for a public hearing item. If you actually are here for a public hearing item and I call you, just let me know and we'll reserve your time for the actual item. We'll start first with the first card I received from our Honorable J.B. Whitten, Mayor of the City of Crestview.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, thank you for the time to address you. I just came by to wish you a happy new year from the city of Crestview. Hope you have a productive 2026 and we can continue the great relationship we have between my city and Okaloosa County. While I'm up here, though, let me also give you an endorsement on the individual you've chosen to be the administrator for your public health department. Michelle Shelton. I got to sit on the screening board, and I'll just let you know you made a great choice. I know you're going to do that, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, our next speaker is Mr. Fuller.
Oh, okay. My name's Kenny Fuller. I'm here to talk about vaccination. I'm here to talk to the county attorney. You've been bankrolling your law firm with the taxpayers' money. You also, your deputy county attorney, Carrie Ann Parson, was fired from Citrus County. She was offered a $35,000 severance pay, but your company decided not to take that, and also you're a shareholder in that company, and you're using it, and also she is a shareholder in that company, and you also is a Democrat, and then she tried to file a complaint against one of the chairman commissioners in Citrus County. Also, you offered Nolan Weeks a severance pay because Mr. Mixon gave a reference, and he can fire you at any time because you are at his pleasure. Then he gets arrested for impersonating a cop, but the state attorney dropped the charges because his lawyer argued state versus Aaliyah, and it says pretending to be a law enforcement officer is not in itself a criminal act unless the individual performance do a typical job of the officer. Also, all the judges removed themselves because they were friends with this guy. They were also friends with this guy who did that. And also, you telling me about the administrative judge? Well, the chief judge is over the administrative judge. You was a Santa Rosa County attorney who also was the judge, Thomas, what is his name, that over the case that I had. You knew him, and you using your position to do evil stuff, and you're not going to get away with it. I'm just telling you that. I know more, but since I don't want to go into more, but you're an asshole, and I want you to know that. And my constitutional right say I can say that because I'm not attacking you. So if everybody in here getting all because I said I'm going by my fucking constitutional right. fucking asshole. And you better get that and plus, you
No,
also
M-
use...
Mr. Fuller, now you're starting to threaten.
I'm not threatening. Shut the fuck up, dude. I'm done. I know what to do, man. All you white folks trying to, oh, get him out of here. You ain't seen me stepping up to his fuck. Kiss my black ass.
Apologize. I should have probably stopped it earlier, but I'm a lawyer and I've been called a lot worse. All right, Mr. Perry. So. Okay. Let me find his. See if I have it. What last name? Give me your. Oh, found it. Got it. All right, Mr. Ruby, come on up. Any colorful name, just direct them to me.
Yeah, I think we'll be a little nicer. Hello and good morning. My name is Justin Ruby of the SS United States Preservation Foundation, and I have spoken here before the board in previous meetings. One of my main concerns I have regarding the proposed sinking of this historic vessel is the apparent lack of preparation in regard to the regulatory impacts and violations reefing the ship could cause. I presented previously regarding the hazards of the zinc chromate and hexavalent chromium that we know are on board the ship and the extreme impact they could have to human and marine life. Okaloosa County has made the assumption prior to purchasing the ship and to this day that the EPA will not require the removal of zinc chromate primer, but this is yet to be determined, and the county is not budgeted for this potential major expense. Your natural resources chief tells this board that the hexavalent chromium will simply be reduced to a less toxic trivalent chromium in the ocean water. This is unfortunately an oversimplification. It's inaccurate, a disservice to the public, and backed up by experts in the biogeochemistry field. Other major regulatory requirements which appear to have been overlooked are the many Endangered Species Act violations reefing the ship has the potential to cause. To the best of my knowledge, an environmental impact study has not been performed by the county. If one has been performed, I would certainly like to review it. As per NOAA Fisheries website, there are currently 20 threatened and endangered species that make their home in the Gulf waters that have the potential to be impacted by the toxins released from this ship, boat traffic to and from the dive site, and noise pollution. Some of these species include the giant manta ray, 5 different species of sea turtles, the Gulf sturgeon, Nassau grouper, the oceanic white-tip shark, Brutus whale, and Rice's whale. Although both whale species are critically endangered with population estimates of only around 50 individuals each, Rice's whale is a newly discovered species as of 2019. In the past, some species protected by the Endangered Species Act have been lost. If the Rice's whale is lost, this would be the first large whale protected under the Act and one of the biggest, not only in terms of the size of the animal, but in terms of its ecological importance to be lost. Rice's whale is the only large whale that's found exclusively in the Gulf waters of the United States and can grow upwards of 40 feet in length. It's uniquely an American whale that few know about, which interestingly does make a unique parallel to the potential demise of the SS United States, as it's in a similar situation here. Polluting the waters in which endangered species live and the potential take, as the Endangered Species Act defines it, as take is will prevent or disrupt. It has the potential to prevent or disrupt the planned reefing of the United States, as the potential take of these organisms is a violation of the Endangered Species Act. So there are real outstanding regulatory issues surrounding the reefing of this vessel that have not been fully reviewed by government agencies yet, and it's just seemingly very unfortunate the county did not investigate these consequences further before proceeding
Ruby,
and purchasing the ship.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Perry? And I just to remind all our speakers, we do have the time limit of 3 minutes just to make sure we can get through all the speakers and get everyone's comments in. So, thank you.
I'll try my best. You know how difficult that is for me. I'm just going to follow up some of the things Mr. Ruby has talked about and everything, but I do want to go over a few items as that was presented at the December meeting where I was here by your Coastal Resource Department and manager, and some of the items that was pertained to that and everything. There was public concern about the budget. Another lady that spoke as well, Ms. Wolf, raised the issue about the single source thing. So we all know this kind of stuff took place. The significant thing is the national guidance document, one of the 5 that's in the contract and everything, which is best practice of proper preparing vessels for intended artificial reefs. This document, again, was prepared in 2006, long before, and doesn't include the Oriskany, which was completely done by the Navy and everything. Doesn't apply, and nobody had the foresight to look at a large ship like this. So there's many things that have fallen between the cracks and are not being addressed by these regulatories. I bring them up many, many times. One of the things in there is floatable items. And if you go back to the summer of 2024 pre-acquisition tour where your coastal resource manager and your contractor are on board, they're saying, no, we don't have to do this, we don't have to address this, floatable items don't, but it's in your practices. There's many other things. We submitted some reports to your county clerk. Lead-based reports where one is exceedingly high, and that is indicated, and that's the overhead of the prom deck, and I mentioned this, and there's full of insulation above it, and you're not removing anything to address that, and now it's all floatable items. These are all clearly identified in your best practices, but it appears that you're not addressing these items. So even though you're saying you're going to follow these guidelines, you're skipping steps, and this is stuff that needs to be looked at. With that said, the other documents you are well aware of and everything like that. Back in September, we brought up the initial issue. In fact, the subject zinc chromate has been brought up every time I've spoken to you since March and everything. Every meeting it's been brought up. In September, Commissioner Mixon had said we'll table it and have it as an agenda item. It was an agenda item for your county coastal resource manager in December. He gave a presentation, but there was no open discussion for other stuff. So we are going to kindly send you an email per instructions and request this be added as an agenda item in for the January 20th meeting. We have expert testimony we'd like to submit with that. Or a gentleman, our PhD that Mr. Ruby mentioned and everything like that. He cannot attend, but we would like to be able to have that on a Zoom call so you can listen to his 10-minute thing and hear what he has to say about this. So we will be submitting that and requesting that to be added to the agenda item. With that said, and as Mr. Ruby has clearly said, there's many things that need to be done. I know you guys are trying to do the best, but there's lots of things that aren't being done because you just don't have, your team doesn't have the awareness of the things that they should do. They're not dumb. They're just not looking, as the old cliche, you can't see the forest for the trees. Thank you.
Dusty Lambert. Morning. Will you push the button on the microphone there, make sure it turns red?
Okay. All right, I'm Dustin Lambert. I'm speaking for BAY about the multipurpose fields. I'd like to know how y'all came up with the idea of doing multipurpose fields over a football field for BAY. Because at BAY we play baseball, football, and softball, just like the school we represent, Baker School, and we're a feeder program for them. So I feel like we've been practicing football for over 30 years in the backside of baseball fields. We don't have no designated, football fields for our fall football players. So, I mean, it's kind of a safety issue there because they play in fall baseball and we're flip-flopping fields and all that. Multi-purpose it's more or less going to be soccer fields. I know what it's going to be. And I just feel like as a community, and speaking for the Baker community and the north end of the county, that number one priority should be football fields, because that was what was on, I mean, I don't know, 10 years ago or whenever the property was built or bought, that 10 acres. That's what it was supposed to be for. And then all of a sudden y'all change it to multi-purpose fields. I don't know, maybe that's a demand on the south end of the county, or maybe we need to reach out to the Baker community and see exactly, what they want instead of what you guys think we need.
Have you had an opportunity to speak with Director Jeff Peters about this? If not, I recommend that you speak with him. He's our recreation director, and he would have a lot of information. Also, this is in Commissioner Cox's district, and I'm sure she'd have some thoughts that she'd like to share with you
My
about it as
wife
well.
reached out with no luck to her, so that's why I'm here today. So I'm gonna bring it up so it's heard and said.
And my legislative aide, Chelsea Sharon, she will get you Jeff Peters' contact information. I think Jeff would be a great person for you to speak with. He's very well versed in all the
Yeah,
sports.
I'm good with that, but
Okay.
like I say, I feel like the community needs to speak on what, not
Sure.
the board of the county commissioners, you know?
Sure.
We know what our kids need, because I'm a board member, I'm a coach, and I'm a parent. And, I mean, Baker School doesn't offer soccer or lacrosse. They play football, baseball, and softball. We're a feeder program, so
Sure.
we should be feeding what Baker School does. We should not worry about soccer and lacrosse. Now, 10 years from now, if they do soccer and lacrosse, yeah, maybe we'll add that in. But we need to do that in due time. We need to focus on what we need today.
Well, if you'll meet with Mr. Peters,
Yeah.
and then, if you feel like you can't get to a comfort level for what the community needs, certainly, obviously bring it back to the board, but I suspect that you'll be able to work through a good bit of this if you'll just talk with Mr. Peters.
Yeah, give me his contact number and I'll
Absolutely. Ms. Sharon right back there will
Mr.
provide it.
Lambert,
I'll do it.
if I may, my name is Sherry Cox. I'm your commissioner.
Okay.
I have spoken with a couple of coaches so far, trying to set up meetings with you guys. I know that Dusty has been in touch with several other people. Maybe your wife was one of those, but those discussions are in progress for a date that will work for everyone to meet about. I know Mr. Peters has chimed in on those email threads about that. But let me give you my cell phone. It's my personal cell phone number, so that you never have to worry about getting in touch with me. Most everybody doesn't really have to worry about being able to get in touch with me. It's
You won't write it
850.
down, you want me to?
I'll give it to everybody. It's 850-621-7355. You should be able to get me on that any time of day.
Yeah. To me, I feel like the football fields and possibly some more baseball fields is what BAY needs.
I have a passion for football. I know that Mr. Peters has a passion for football
Well, it's
and
a football
baseball. So, right, I understand. Believe me, I personally founded Emerald Coast Pop Warner for this area as its first Pop Warner football team. So I respect BAYA. You're going to have cooperation from us. We just need to get together on the time and place to meet. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Guy Tadlock.
Honorable Commissioners, I'm Guy Tadlock. I live in Destin, Florida. I live on the harbor. I live very close to the new park. I went to the town hall meeting that Commissioner Palmer set up. Really appreciate that. I thought it was a real good meeting. There were over 250 people there. I would really urge you to take a look at the video. There's an overwhelming concern and right now opposition to what's planned. The public has not had any inputs. If you go through the litany of schedules and all of that, supposedly the funding was jammed through in the last minute, which isn't exactly true if you go back and look at the paper trail of when this discussion started. But nevertheless, we have on Holiday Isle, we have over 600 units or residents within about 2,000 feet of that park. Of these 600 units, they're high-end condominiums, they're single-family homes, and townhomes. And there's a lot of concerns about a marina 24/7 operating in an HOA right next to a park, Noriego Point Park, that is open from dusk to dawn. And we got a 24/7 marina going right there. So the other big concern is our park, Noriego Point Park, which was sponsored by the BP oil spill. That is such an incredible park. It hadn't had a grand opening yet, but right now our parking, I think there's 50 or 60 parking places there as part of the park. It's at capacity every weekend. Yesterday, it was 2/3 full on a Monday afternoon. So please, as we go through this thing, please be considerate that the residents of this subdivision needs to have a voice as well. The marina is a fragile balance between the marina and commerce in Destin Harbor. Those fishermen, those boat captains have had a hard time making a living through the years. And now you're putting a 53-foot slip marina in there that's going to compete in a large way with their revenue. So thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration, and I'm sure that we'll have many more opportunities to talk. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that is the last speaker card I have, except for the 3 that I have related to public hearing items. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the board that hasn't come forward? If not, there'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting as well for public comment. So we'll close the first public comment portion of the meeting. And that brings us to our visitor, Aaron Otis. With the Okaloosa County Department of Health. So, good morning.
Good morning. Well, thank you for having us here today. My name is Aaron Otis. I'm actually the Assistant Deputy Secretary for County Health Systems out of Tallahassee. I'm here today representing our State Surgeon General and our Deputy Secretary for County Health Systems, in accordance with Florida statute, but really about our continuation of great partnerships with the County Health Department. We're here today to present Ms. Michelle Shelton as your next administrator for the Okaloosa County Health Department. So today we're looking for is that concurrence. Ms. Shelton brings an exceptional background in community health, including over 28 years in the military, retiring as a colonel with the Air Force. With that, obviously demonstrated leadership skills. We believe she's a great asset. She'll be a great asset for the county. She'll be a great asset for the state. We thank you for your consideration today, and we'll let Michelle introduce herself as well, and then we'll ask for your vote.
Very good.
Well, good morning to the board. Thank you all so much for this opportunity to be able to stand before you today. I would just like to say that I have a quote that I kind of live by, and it's by Shirley Chisholm, and it is, service is the rent that we pay for living. After over 28 years of military service, and giving to our nation, I decided to reside here in Okaloosa County. And I have been serving in the community in different venues with some nonprofit organizations as well as with some community organizations. And having the opportunity to serve as our public health administrator is an even greater opportunity for me to continue to serve the community that I live in. And so I thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to your concurrence.
Very good. Well, thank you. We certainly appreciate you coming here this morning. I think that you need a approval of the board, correct, for concurrence. So I've certainly had the opportunity to sit down and spend some time with Michelle. Very, very impressive resume. You know, I'll leave it at that unless the board wishes to make a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion for Ms.
Second.
Shelton.
All right, so that's a motion to confirm by Commissioner Mixon with Commissioner Cox seconding that. Further discussion, commissioners?
I'd like to say something with
Ketchel?
I'm very impressed with your background. We are so excited to have you on board at the Health Department, and I'm excited to work with you. Thank you so much for coming forward and making an application, and anything we can do to go forward, and I hope we don't have any more pandemics or any more reasons, but you know, just so many good things that the Health Department can do and have done in the past. So thank you for being the person who's going to be our leader.
Mr. Chair, just one, thank you for your willingness to do this and not stay retired. And so this is exciting to see. It also is exciting to see your pastor and your church family here with you. It shows really strength in the core values of who you are and the the community that you have behind you. So thanks for what you're doing. We really appreciate Beth, and sorry to see her retire, but I'm grateful that you're stepping in for this role.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I also wanted to echo that. Thank you. Thank you for your willingness to serve. I know I had a great meeting with you, and I expect that you're going to do an excellent job, and you're nearing the end of a very long and difficult process. So well done, and congratulations.
All right. Commissioner Cox?
I think I can probably go ahead and say welcome to the team. I've not had a chance to meet with you, but I was impressed by your incredible resume. I mean, you bring a lot to the table, and especially in a military-dominant community. I really thank you for jumping back in the mix, into the fray, and being willing to serve us. Also, kudos for the quote from Shirley Chisholm. Always a mentor for so many. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll go on with the formalities of taking up a vote, but I don't think you got to be a colonel in the United States Air Force without being able to count, so you know how this is going to go.
Yes,
All right. All those in favor, please signal by saying aye. And those opposed, that passes unanimously. Welcome aboard. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to our consent agenda. Are there any item? Well, I think first there is an item that Administrator Hofstad wants to clarify. Item 8.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I just want to make a clarification for the record. Item 8, the staff report in item 8 referenced staff approval of a concept back in October 7th, and it said 26. That should have been October 7th, 25. So I just want to clarify that for the record. The staff report should read October 7th, 2025, not 26. That's all I have, sir.
And that doesn't change anything about the requested
No,
direction?
sir. No, sir.
Okay. All right. Any items that any commissioners wish to pull?
Motion approval minus the change, well, not minus, but in addition to the change of number 8.
Second?
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All right, those in favor, please signal by saying aye. And those opposed? All right, the consent agenda passes unanimously. All right, that brings us to our public hearings. And our first public hearing being the small-scale plan amendment and rezoning on behalf of Deep South Engineering Services. Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This request is for a rezoning. The property is 3.05 acres, and it's located on the northwest corner of Hilton Road and Highway 4 in Baker. The applicant is requesting a future land use map change from mixed use to commercial, and if that is approved, a rezoning from mixed use to general commercial C3. The anticipated development is some outdoor storage and a commercial building, and I believe the applicant is here to answer any questions that you may have regarding this rezoning.
Okay, yeah. And I'm going to turn over to the county attorney to swear in anyone who intends to present testimony regarding this quasi-judicial item.
Sure. Anybody here to speak as to this item? If you'll please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And commissioners, now would be the appropriate time to disclose any ex parte communications you may have had on this matter. I see none. Okay, in that case, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so we'll open the public comment portion of the public hearing. And Mr. George, who's here, I have his card, so we'll hear from him first.
Okay, well, we want to make this change is necessary to be able to accommodate a project that my client wants to establish out there, an open storage area, which because of this mixed-use zoning, we couldn't connect to Hilton Road, which would be the obvious place to connect. The rules would require us to connect to Highway 4, which would be too close to where the entrance is to Hilton Road. And so thus we're changing the zone in order to accommodate the use of Hilton Road for access to this project.
Thank you, Mr. George.
Thank you. Questions? Okay.
Any questions, Mr. George?
Okay.
No, I don't think
Thank
so. I have 2 speaker cards, and, well, I think only one of them might be on this item. Mr. Jacobs, are you here for this public hearing item? No, okay. All right, I don't have any other speaker cards. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item that hasn't had an opportunity? Okay, I see no one, so we'll close the public comment portion of public hearing number 1 and bring it back to the board for action. Commissioner Cox, this is your district.
I'm going to move to approve on this with the notation that the reason that I am so willing to do so is that it appears on the surface that this is going to, that this particular development is going to benefit from public safety perspective. I mean, I'm familiar with the area. It seems that this would be make that parcel just more accessible for numerous reasons. So I'm going to move to approve with that noted.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve the small-scale plan amendment to the future land use map by Commissioner Cox. This would be the first motion. Is there a second? All right, and a second by Commissioner Palmer.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, I think what Commissioner Cox was saying was that this use would be allowed if the connection was on Highway 4, but because of public safety issues, the better connection would be on Hilton Road. Otherwise, it would be allowed if we had an unsafe entrance, basically.
Further discussion? All right, those in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? All right, that passes unanimously to approve the future land use map amendment. Now we can consider the rezoning request. Commissioner Cox?
Motion to approve.
All right, motion and a second. Further discussion? All right, those in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. All right, that brings us to our second public hearing item.
Commissioners, as you are aware, part of our growth management program in the county is that the county requires certain infrastructure items to be provided by the developers when they bring forward development. And that is water and sewer, or it's paying into the mobility fee for traffic impacts, or it's parks and recreation through our payment or fee in lieu of program that we review each development against. And so what this particular item is a development agreement for parks and recreation provision in this particular development, Independence, which is a large development. We are not approving the entire development here today. The ask is to approve this development agreement, which gives us a path forward on how they provide that parks and recreation component only moving forward over the next 8 phases. Currently, 2 phases of this development have been approved, and the developer would like to move forward with a 3rd phase approval. But in order to do that, we need to have a mechanism to ensure that the parks and rec infrastructure is provided as they move through the additional phases. And so that is what this development agreement does. The code allows us to do this, or what's called a phase development approval initially. When this project initially came in, it did not have that phase development approval. And so the code and the Florida statute allow us to do this development agreement to ensure that as they move forward, those components are provided by the developer at the developer's expense. And they do have a community development district established in this particular development to essentially pay for this infrastructure item. So Mr. Jacobs, I'm sorry, is here with D.R. Horton. If you have any questions, that's the developer of this particular project. If they should deviate from this program, they would need to come back to you to amend this development agreement or if, something changed with the development in the future. But again, this only deals with Parks and Recreation, and we're not approving the entire development. It will just enable us to move forward with Phase 3 approval in the immediate future. Questions?
All right. Questions at this time?
Yes, I have one.
Commissioner Cox?
So just so I understand you correctly, this is essentially to reiterate or to underscore the development agreement which already exists, such that the Parks and Rec requirement will be required for the developer to move forward. And this is in essence, to underscore that agreement between both parties, ourselves and the developer.
Yeah, they have a couple of things going on. There's a community development district, but then there's also an overlay that was approved by the county a while back. And this really just gives us those sort of teeth in the review process to ensure that they continue on that path of providing those parks and recreation components that are essential infrastructure for the development.
So what we would be approving today is essentially the instrument to ensure compliance.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes,
All right,
ma'am.
thank you. That's all I needed.
Any other questions? If not, I do have one question. I just want to make sure. So this development agreement is agreeing to freeze the zoning that already applies to the project in exchange for the assurances from the developer. Is that what it's doing?
No, I mean, there's no agreement that we have to maintain the zoning. That I don't, they essentially, when they got the overlay, that probably is what did that, and that was, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago. So they did get that sort of land use approval at that time. I don't know that that's a component of this agreement, but that is in place.
What is the county agree? What is the county's concession or consideration?
So we essentially are allowing the development to move forward in the phased manner without providing the 5-acre park in each individual development. So if they were to come forward as individual plats, without this overlay and without the community development district and without the phased development approval, which there was no phased development agreement in the beginning. So we're allowing them to essentially plan that infrastructure out over those phases without looking at it like it's an individual development where they have to do the 5 acres in each.
So effectively, deferred amenities where they can still get their final on their DOs so that they can record the plats in these different sections and start building houses before all the amenities are done.
Yes, because not every phase would meet that 5-acre requirement, even though they're providing more than they would have to provide under a phased approach. And they're not exactly, that's exactly it. And so that allows them to move forward with the financial commitment to the county. They have to post the bond that ensures that when they get to those future phases, that recreation will be there, and if not, we keep the bond.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying that. Any other questions, Michelle? Okay. I have 2 speaker cards. Mr. Jacobs? No? Okay. All right. He's available if there are any questions of Mr. Jacobs. All right. And then I have Lakeisha Deloach. Yes. If you'd come forward.
Good morning. So when I looked at the agenda packet, I didn't notice that this was only for the parks and recreation infrastructure, but are we allowed to speak on what I did see, the 1,222 homes?
I would think in your 3 minutes, if you've got things that are germane to this development that you'd like to speak to, please present them.
Okay, so I'm Lakeisha Deloach, and that is what I am here to speak on. And for me, it's not so much of the matter of will 1,222 homes fit in that area, but it's the second, third order, fifth effect that could happen and affect the community. So I saw that there was a plan to purchase land for when the population hits 300 or 400,000. So if there's enough foresight to take action now for that plan, we need action taken as far as Highway 90 is a 2-lane highway, as everybody knows. So for the Bureau of Transportation, at least 56% of homes have at least 2 vehicles. So putting that number into mind, that's how much more traffic we could possibly expect on Highway 90 or going out onto 285, which is a 2-lane highway. And I don't know about anybody else, but driving on 85 at any time of the day, that can be a nightmare just to get to Walmart to get groceries or anything of that effect. So has that been taken into consideration? And if we look at expanding Highway 90, how does that impact property owners that are already out there in their land? Also, as far as fire and emergency medical services, we're expanding out there in the east. How much more personnel is that going to require? How many fire stations would need to be stood up with permanent positions, not just volunteer positions? Because I would like to know that we have personnel nearby who can respond in a timely manner and not be stuck in traffic. Because I've been in traffic trying to get over for emergency personnel, and you don't have anywhere to go sometimes. So they just have to wait until people drive through the intersection at a red light for them to get through. That slows down response time, I would think. Also, fire hydrants in the county. I don't know how often they drive through to see where new fire hydrants are needed or whatnot. I live on Mount Olive Road. I walk that dangerous road sometimes to exercise. I can't tell you how many fire hydrants I've seen. I haven't seen one near my home, so God forbid that anything happens at the front of Mount Olive. What are they going to do? Do they just use the water that's in their trucks? Also, I know y'all don't impact the school district decisions or whatever, but you got to look at how many children does that add to the district as well. Have you all spoken with them about that? So that's just some of the things that I am asking for people to take a look at when you're agreeing to approving any more bills in the area. And that's my time. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Deloach. That's a refreshing reminder that we need to do our job up here. Points well taken. I don't necessarily know that they are against the recreation issue unless I misunderstood. But is there anybody else that wants to speak to this issue that hasn't had the opportunity so far? All right. We'll close the public comment portion of this public hearing and bring it back to the board for consideration. Commissioner Mixon, this appears to be in your district.
It is, and I'll make a motion for approval, but I have comments after a second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. So, Commissioner Mixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll take it 2 parts. Start with Ms. Deloach. Hey, you went back there now. So I'm the commissioner of that area, and I'd love to help explain some of those things to you because they're all mostly, I think all but one that you mentioned is part of original development packets, and so let's look at that at some point. I'd be glad to get your information from your speaker card as long as it's up to date, and that way we can connect later. But I'll touch on a couple things. This is several years in the works. We crossed a lot of those bridges during that time when we began to discuss this because it's quite a large development. The CDD idea, we were in the process of getting out of one as they applied for this one. And so I wanted to see what they wanted to build, so my wife and I took our kids out of state to go look at what they were mirroring this neighborhood after. One of the requests we came up with was that they would start with amenities on the front side rather than build all the houses. And some of you have been to some neighborhoods that we potentially have in North Okaloosa County that started with houses first, and they never did get to the amenities. One of them, they never did get to the roads. So it's interesting. But this one, if you drive by it now, the roads are just about finished, and the amenities seem to be in the final phase of being finished for the initial construction. So out of the items that we suggested outside of required, they even complied with that. And so far, been great partners on the front side. There is a traffic study that's of record. Traffic changes over time. Developments take a long time, and so you'll see a gap within there. I will tell you, unfortunately, Highway 90 is not something that we have the authority to fix a pothole on. It's a state highway, And so we are at the will of the state for the repairs or expansions of that highway. We have great partnerships with the state. We're doing some great things together, and I'm very appreciative of that. But I tell you, in the state, there's 17 SIS projects for roadways. 16 out of the 17 are south of Live Oak, Florida. So the Panhandle does not get a lot of attention in some of those. So we're struggling with some of our roadways to look for enhancement. On that road, it is on the list for our traffic planning organization, which several of us are a part of. But that does not mean, it means we've stated that it's a great idea. DOT has agreed that it's a need, but no one has said, here's the money, go do it. And so we're waiting for that. Ahead of that on the list is Highway 85. Ahead of that, Highway 98 comes second to 85. And then we share the TPO, the Traffic Planning Organization. We share it with Walton County. I can explain all this when we meet, but it's good to get it out now because other people might have a question too. We share the TPO with Walton County, and so our priorities have to merge together to say what's best for the two-county area when it comes to state roads. With that, so far they've done everything, Mr. Chairman. I'm thankful that they're moving in the way that they are. It'll be great one day to see a light there as we have homes that arrive there. I don't think it's necessary yet, and so we'll see how that goes. Thank you for letting me make those comments.
Further discussion? All right, those in favor, please signal by saying aye. And those opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. And that closes our final public hearing of the morning and brings us to department business. The first item to be presented by Mr. Bitterman, Public Works Director.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Scott Bitterman with the Public Works Department. This item requests the board approval to submit a grant application to the Florida Department of Transportation for $1.9 million. It would fund the Windhaven Beach Stormwater Control and Road Improvements Project. This initiative addresses a stream that flows under Highway 98 that is constricted by undersized culverts that go under Windhaven Beach Road. Beyond flood mitigation, this project would provide a location for a future traffic signal, and it would complement the 6-laning project that FDOT plans to do on Highway 98. It would also complement our West 98 Collector project and the Connecting the Collectors project. You may have remembered seeing this before. We applied for a TRIP grant several years ago, but we did not receive the award. The project scored very well in that cycle. However, the Emerald Coast Regional Council had decided to prioritize a different project because it had a funding match. While this grant requires a 50-50 match, the county has already allocated the match necessary through surtax, and your approval today would allow us to pursue state funds to leverage our surtax investment. So I recommend a motion for approval to submit the grant application and authorizing the county administrator to act as the authorizing official and sign the application. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, Commissioners, any questions about this? This is in my district, and I am in favor of it.
Chairman, I'll make a motion for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Ketchum. And I think I got a second by Commissioner Cox. All right.
I just want to add something. Thank you for catching all these opportunities. Even, after it's been denied, we appreciate you, as staff to keep seeking them. I mean, it can be daunting, to be declined and then make, the reapplication, but we certainly appreciate you doing this. This definitely leverages the money that comes from our taxpayers for their own best use, and we appreciate you being so diligent about that, or at least I do. Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, further discussion? All right, those in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? That passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, department business, second item, Ms. Adams, Tourist Development.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Happy New Year to all of you. I have one item today that I'm going to introduce, and Craig and I are going to tag team. We're requesting approval of the contract for Joy Gordon Construction for the Rigdon Center Concession and Restroom Building. If you remember this past summer that the old building was demolished and we're ready to move forward with the new building for concession and restrooms. The staff report that you have in front of you right now, we did find a clerical error. The dollars are about $21,000 off. So we can walk you through. We forgot to add in the cost for the hood. So that is an error that I apologize for. But for the record, the total cost of this project is $1,892,910. I want to let Mr. Coffey walk through a few of these, and then we can answer any questions.
Thank you, board members. This is a great addition to our phase 1 project, if you recall. So we're implementing that. If you've been there lately, it's looking great. This will add a huge component to making the facility very functional. B and C buildings, if you're familiar with that, that's our largest event space. One can hold about 1,000 people, 900 people, and the other one can hold about 600, I believe. This will provide bathrooms, catering kitchens, concessions area. On top of that, there'll be another bid coming not too long, again, for phase 1. That'll be the facade improvements that you guys signed off on. So that'll be coming. That's going to be going out, hitting the street soon, and that'll be coming back in the first quarter. Also, we're working on the epoxy for the floors. So that is now ready to, we have bids back on that, and that'll be coming soon. And lastly, we're working on a technology component, which is going to be all your audiovisual stuff, just like screens that you have here. That's now going to be a component that was never there at that facility. So it's going to be a very much needed upgraded community facility that holds a lot of community events, but also it will also attract some tourism events as well. So it's going to be a dual purpose facility. It's really looking great, and this is going to be a great addition to that. So we're using owner direct purchases for some of this to save tax dollars, so we don't have to pay tax on our profit market up on those items. So I'll entertain any questions, and Sharon's here with us too. And
just for my own clarification, I guess, how much of this project is going to come from Okaloosa County taxpayer dollars versus bed tax dollars?
It's all 100% bed tax tourism dollars.
Outstanding.
So
that's what I wanted to hear.
And tourism purchased the facility, if you may recall, was predates you slightly for a little over $4 million, and they've been making investments, and I think we probably have $6 or $7 million in it total to date. So
fantastic. Just wanted to reiterate for ourselves and for our citizens that the monies being spent for tourism are being spent by tourism.
Thank you for clarifying that. We don't toot that horn enough. A lot of projects we do with tourism dollars are dual purpose. So the residents, if they want to have we have a lot of Sweet 16 party, what do they call them? Concierge? Concierge. We have a lot of different events there. We have a lot of, we had different, the Vietnam Veterans event there. We have different, all sports is there, a fish fry. So we have a lot of community events there that occurs, and it's tourism dollars that are helping make those facilities nicer so we can have quality events.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Other questions?
So I'll make a motion for approval, but Ms. Adams, I really want to accentuate this because I've had so many complaints over the years that the convention center costs so much money that it has run our locals out. Please do everything you can to keep the cost down so that our local vendors are given deference to be able to use this facility. That's one of the reasons I was so supportive of redoing this facility, is so that the local folks, the people that have had the quilt shows and the antique shows and the gun shows, can come in here and afford it. Okay, please, I'm asking you that. And
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think
We have
others will feel that
several
way.
meetings that have switched from the convention center to the Rigdon Center. And we're also, within the last 6 months, booking multi-year contracts on this facility, which is fantastic.
Commissioners, further? Well, I think that was a motion. Do we have a second? Wow, we got 3 seconds. Wow. All right. It's a motion and a second. I'll leave it at that. I think I'll call Commissioner Palmer for the clerk. All right. Further discussion on this item? All right. I will say that, last time I was out there, it was fantastic, the improvements that we're making. I feel like we're keeping the commitment we made to the community that we would preserve this facility as an asset that the locals could still utilize, much like Commissioner Ketchel is referencing, and that it'll still be affordable, but it's going to be nicer, cleaner, more inviting, and eventually bigger. So I think this is a wonderful step in that direction. And, as Mr. Coffey pointed out, what a few years ago, what was it, 2-3 years ago, we bought this property from the city of Fort Walton. And, at that time, its future was really unknown. I mean, it could have been declared surplus. It could have been sold to private development for all sorts of different things. And we were able to leverage, the resources in our county to preserve that property as a community asset. And so I think it's really fulfilling that purpose. And this is just another step towards, what I view as fulfilling the promise we made to our constituents when we purchased the property. So thanks for bringing this forward. All right. If there's nothing further, those in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? All right, that passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right. Now we'll turn to new business. The first item, I think, may have a typo. I didn't catch this in the agenda. This is the around the mound item, Mr. Autry, but I think it's actually in Commissioner Ketchell's district in 2. So there's a typo on the agenda. I just want to point that out. So.
You're correct. Great start to the new year.
I actually caught that and talked to Mr. Hofstad, but it was too late. It had already been published.
Regardless, the City of Fort Walton Beach, Jason Autry, Development Services, the City of Fort Walton Beach is working on the Around the Mound project. I know the commissioners are very familiar with that. It's been a project they've had for many years. It's wholly within the City of Fort Walton Beach jurisdiction, and they're in the stage where they're looking at potential design layouts, so the PD&E stage. DOT has done their investigation, and their latest recommendation was for what they've referred to as alternative 1A. The difference between 1A and 1B largely is at grade versus grade separation, which means bridges versus roads on the ground. DOT has leaned towards alternate 1A. That's been their preference, but the City of Fort Walton Beach is very much in favor of alternative 1B. To that effect, what they have done is created a resolution. They reached out to the different municipalities, different organizations, and they're seeking support from Okaloosa County and their endeavor for DOT to consider alternate 1B. I will tell you that the way that we tend to approach these is that when it is within a city's jurisdiction, we like to let the city take the lead. This is their area. We want them to have their say, and if this is what they want, we certainly support them in that effort. This is a resolution to that effect, that we support them in their endeavor to move forward with this. They're a long ways away from design, planning, and construction. They're in the very preliminary stages, but they want to get their thoughts to DOT, and we certainly want to support them in those efforts.
Very good.
Commissioner
Commissioner Ketchell?
Could I ask you to go into more detail about the difference between 1A and 1B? Because this is...
Yeah, it's largely, the simplest way to put this is the alignments are very similar in terms of if you look at it from a bird's eye view. The difference is when you're standing on the ground. 1A is roads that are on the ground at grade. 1B is going to be elevated or grade separated roadways, which allows you to get through intersections without signals necessarily, maybe a little bit more efficient, maybe a little bit more costly, maybe a little bit more savings in terms of right-of-way. There's gives and takes and different approaches to this. The city feels like having it with elevation separation is more efficient and more effective and less of an impact to their downtown area.
And may I ask you how you feel about it as an engineer?
Engineering-wise, they're both perfectly acceptable. I will tell you that you come to concerns with costs when you go to grade separation. I remember when I moved to the Panhandle in the early 2000 area, the city of Destin was going through a very similar conversation with regard to 98. In fact, I was appointed as a consultant engineer to a blue ribbon panel they had to look at elevating 98 with a grade separation. And the big problem they had there was cost. And that was the ultimate hurdle. From an engineering standpoint, you can do it either way. It's just what kind of costs you have, what kind of impacts do you want to have. There are sightline issues that come with grade separation. In other words, if you put bridges, now all of a sudden your downtown area is filled with pilings and roadways that are elevated. I think that is a deterrent. But there are also advantages because you can fly over intersections as opposed to having stops, like traffic signals to deal with. So it's a great way to tell you that I don't think that there is one that is the absolute answer to use in all instances. However, the City of Fort Walton Beach has requested the DOT consider this, and we certainly support them in that effort.
Thank you.
Other questions? If not, Commissioner, this is your district.
Well, I really wanted to go with 1A, to be honest with you, but I hate to go against the city, so it's a tough decision. I was hoping to hear from some of the other commissioners on their thoughts before I made a motion.
It'd be so much easier if you just made the motion, but.
You take it, Carolyn.
So how long do you think, you've worked with DOT for a long time, how much do you think the difference is in 1A and B?
I did talk with the district design staff, and one of the, it's so early, it's very difficult to give exact numbers, but, one of the numbers they threw out to me was this could be a 3x difference, which is a 3 times cost differential. That is a component in construction. If it's a 3 times cost difference, I mean, you're talking 200 million versus 600 million. The timeline out on that is, it's almost inconsequential for us to think about. Sure. It's so far out, it's just not going to have a huge impact. I also want to go back to a statement you made earlier. The number 1 priority that we have in Okaloosa County through the TPO is 85. The number 2 priority we have is West 98. This is going to fall 3rd at best, competing with whatever we would have through Walton County. So from the DOT's perspective, this is something that they want to think about and be looking ahead and in the future, but our priorities remain with 85 and Western 98. So in terms of time-wise, I don't have any concern whatsoever. I think it's very prudent to say, let's look at what is the layout that we want to pursue the most. But it's so far out in the future that there are going to be, I would imagine, multiple times this, the next card's going to flip in the deck and it's going to surprise us and cause us to shift in some way, shape, or form. I don't think it's a problem to consider the elevated roadways.
So that as they change, council and we change commission, would it be a safer approach to just make a resolution that we really support Fort Walton in their efforts of this endeavor and not label us to choosing one or the other, but just more of a blanket of support that we do? Because we split some funding with them. We went after a grant with them. We chose to keep our amount the same. And we've stayed good partners. I won't use a partner word necessarily in the fairgrounds. That was a purchase. But in this, we've stayed good partners, and it allows us to keep the momentum of saying we support you in what you're doing, but maybe not choose a horse in the race, just be excited over the race happening? I
think my preference is that we support Fort Walton in their endeavor. This is in their jurisdiction. I certainly want them to take the lead and have them be in charge of, or lead the charge of what they feel is best in their community.
I don't want to lead a future commission to being the fall guy for, well, it was half your fault. You picked the more expensive one. I think we're much safer because it is a great idea. I'd love to see it happen.
I like where you're going. Honestly, I would support that motion.
Can I mention something here? And maybe the commissioners will have an appetite for this and maybe not. But would anybody support having sort of a round table? I know nobody wants to, to create something that causes tumult or, discord, but would anyone have an appetite for a discussion, a round table, so that we are able to present the reality of choosing something that is a 3X project and how far out it could potentially be, and how, what a long-reaching impact that could have on the unfolding of the project at all. I mean, right now, it sounds like that would be, so far out. Correct me if I'm wrong, that the benefit.
The beauty of the process that DOT is going through is they're doing exactly that. Their public hearing process through the PD&E is exactly that. That is why they have these alternates they put out there. So we could ask for another conversation. The reality is that's what they're doing. That's what their process is going for. To remember our role in this, this is a DOT state roadway inside the city of jurisdiction. I think we need to be a little bit cautious in what we enact in terms of our part.
Agreed.
We need to be careful in how we involve ourselves. We want to show support. To Commissioner Mixon's point, the third whereas statement, which is lines 20 and 21, says the Board of County Commissioners supports the city's preference for alternative 1B for the following reasons. These statements are the ones that the city has provided in their resolution, and I would suggest that for lines 31 through 33, we mimic that same statement and simply say that we support the city in those motions. I think that does what you're looking to, is we support the city, they move forward with it, but it doesn't lock us into a recommendation one way or the other. Perhaps that's the easiest way to address that.
Chairman, one more comment, if I might. Ms. Cox, you're about ready to go on the TPO. That's a real involved afternoon we have quarterly, and we've already had those discussions. So what you're suggesting happens there, and that's what he was talking about.
Yeah.
I like where you're going with that. I guess just support the city would probably be the best thing. I don't want to get sideways with them, but I'm concerned about the elevation myself personally. But like you said, probably none of us will be sitting here when this goes through. So.
I don't believe I will be.
If I could take a stab at a motion.
Please.
And make a motion for approval minus the preference, but with the inclusion of 1, 2, and 3. How they have lines 23, 24, and 26. Those are great points. I think we can go straight from alternatives 1A and 1B are projected to cost approximately the same after the construction is complete, and then have an entry sentence that leads to those 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3 are still supported by the city, and we can definitely support the city without laying claim to one or the other.
It works.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All right, those in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? All right, that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. That brings us to our new business item number 2. Mr. Autry, I think you're also going to take this one up.
I am, yes, sir. So this is a informational item provided to the board regarding LPR's license plate readers. This is a technology that has really grown in recent times, and it's something that our sheriff's office is utilizing on our roadways within Okaloosa County. One of the things I wanted to kind of lay out was the different forms of LPRs, license plate readers that are out there and how they're utilized. That's what I did in the first section of this one. This exists in the toll-by-plate approach. That's used statewide. It's actually used here in Okaloosa County on the Mid-Bay Bridge as part of their collector roadway. The advantage to it is you don't have personnel sitting there waiting. You actually have the ability just to drive through, and they will conveniently send you a bill in the mail. So that is an LPR process. Red light cameras. We do not have red light cameras that issue citations on Okaloosa County roadways. That is, when I say Okaloosa County, stuff that the county owns and maintains. However, they do exist within Okaloosa County. In fact, here in the city of Crestview, they do have a couple of locations where they have red light cameras. That's the same concept. Those are LPRs. They're license plate readers. They detect which vehicles go through. They gain information regarding the vehicle, the license plate, and the timing of the signal, and they can automatically issue citations. So that is an LPR that is out there. Okaloosa County does not utilize them on our signals. I would not be an advocate for that. I've talked with the county attorney's office on multiple occasions. There's various reasons why I wouldn't support that, but it is a technology that is in place today. School zone speed cameras, there was a recent law that had changed in the past cycle, and that allowed municipalities and counties to set out cameras within school zones. Again, Okaloosa County has not done that, but they do exist in our county. The city of Fort Walton Beach has utilized that as a mechanism for enforcement of school zones. Initially, there was one school zone that was requested by the city of Fort Walton Beach that was put on a county roadway. We clarified that. It has since been removed, but that is an LPR process that is out there. You can use license plate readers to issue a citation for speeding within a school zone. And then the other form that exists in Okaloosa County, I called it a vehicle query because I didn't really know any other way to describe this, but this is something that the sheriff's office has contracted with a company called Flock Safety. And they have a fair amount of cameras located throughout Okaloosa County on both state roadways, county roadways, and city roadways, where they are able to obtain information on the passage of vehicles. I want to be very clear, this is a contract between the sheriff's office and the county. I've seen the contract, but I have not worked with Flock. I don't know their representatives personally. I have not dealt with them personally, other than when they have submitted to the county for application. I do want to point out, I had to write this agenda item before the Christmas holiday due to timing of when I was gone and such, and I put a pound in there because I was waiting on a number. So if you look at the paragraph after those first 4 bullets, it says that the installation of, and I was saying number of license plate readers exist on 27 county roadways. There are 29 cameras that were permitted on 27 different roadways. One of those has since been removed. So that was the one that was on Denton Boulevard put forward by the school board, by the city of Fort Walton Beach. That has been removed. So there exist 28 on 26 roadways today. I did talk with the sheriff's office as recent as this morning to kind of go through how they utilize the LPRs without speaking for them, but to convey the information. The terms that they use I thought was a pretty interesting one is they view this as a manpower multiplier. They utilize this to to find vehicles when they're going through a query. It's not an active sit there and watch. However, when they have a license plate they're trying to track down, they can query this database, and it will give them points of where it hits and sort of determine the pathway that it's going. They do this communication not only in Okaloosa County, but they'll work with jurisdictions outside of our county, inside of the state of Florida, even outside the state of Florida and other jurisdictions that have them. Just some quick information about Flock. It is American-owned. It is based out of Atlanta. They claim that there's about 6,000 different law enforcement agencies that utilize LPR services for law enforcement. All of the information that is obtained within Okaloosa County is owned by the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, and Flock has been pretty open in their statement that they do not release data unless it is the owner that allows it to go, so Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is the one that would release it. The only caveat I would put to that is I did see some information, and I'm going to be really cautious that I state this, that there could be subpoenas or requirements to release that information based on court actions. But I think that's something that would work through the sheriff's office if that were to come to play. It's a cloud-based service. They say it is completely accessed by the sheriff's office, their contract owner. They have never had a breach in that information. They do not sell that information, and they're very overt in their statements of how they try to protect that it's out there. In talking with the sheriff's office, they did give me a quick little list of some of the items that they have utilized it for. Just some summary of what they utilize LPRs for. The most common one that I noticed was for stolen vehicles or stolen items for theft. That was a very common use. They've used it for missing persons, even a juvenile that was claimed missing, a kidnapping, and then even to track down shooting suspects. They view this, as I said, as a manpower multiplier. It's a way to kind of identify where vehicles are going. In one instance I read where a mother had called in and said that her 15-year-old daughter was taken without permission by an uncle, and she was under the impression that the uncle was headed north, I think towards the Boston area. And by using LPRs, they actually had to track him down in Ocala, so it went a different direction, because it was more reliable data than what the person had believed. So LPRs are in use in Okaloosa County. The sheriff's office has the contract. They do utilize that. It is something they view as a tool, as an asset. I think that they have spoken with you directly, Commissioner Goodwin, about this. And when I spoke with them today, I said, I'm going to present what I can view as just sort of the overview information. I want to be very clear what we have in our rights of way. Again, in county roadways, there's 26 different locations with 28 different active cameras at this point in time. We don't maintain them. They're there by permit, much like we would any other utility that places something within our right of way. That's what I've got. I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can, and I may defer to asking for, the ability to speak with the sheriff's office since this is their contract if it gets to that point.
Sure. All right. Thank you, Mr. Autry. And this is something that I did ask to be briefed for the board to talk about for a couple reasons. One, I've had several inquiries from citizens about what are these little black poles with the black camera that are popping up in all the right-of-ways? What are these things? It was a good question and one that merited a little further investigation because, as the board knows, these permits for these things is not something that ever came before the board for discussion or an item. It was approved under our procedures at a staff level, I think.
Correct.
So they were as much a surprise to me as I think some of the people that were asking questions about it. And then recently at our legislative delegation meeting, a few concerned citizens came forward and asked our state legislators to consider further regulations to try to secure or protect the data that is collected through these license plate reader cameras. And I think the concern that was expressed was not so much that law enforcement had access to it, but that it was being done through private contractors. And so I started asking some questions and trying to dig down a few additional layers. And so that's really what prompted this. And just to share with the board, my primary questions were, who owns the data? It looks like we've got some contractual clarification on that. Who owns the company that's providing it? Who owns the company that owns the company that's providing it? As you peel back the layers of what these entities are, how is the data housed? It sounds like it's cloud-based, so it's not on a government server, it's on a private server. And then, you know, is there any audit over the data? And what rights does the county, Okaloosa County, have in any of the data or usage since it's in the county right away? So I think Jason tried to ferret out some of those things. But I wanted to bring it up for discussion because I've had, like I said, several citizens ask about it. And it has never been on an agenda item before because they were staff approval level right-of-way permits. They, you know, but, you know, certainly I think it touches on some sensitivities of, you know, yes, it's in the public venue, but, you know, what's being done with these recordings. So that's why I wanted to bring it forward. And so just wanted to lay that out there. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Autry at this time? Commissioner Cox?
I do, for sure. My concerns on this issue are multi-level, and I've fielded quite a few from citizens as well. But, you know, we live, thankfully, in a constitutionally aware environment. And because that's the case, I mean, I worry about this for our public safety professionals, in addition to our citizens, that there is, you know, I understand that it is owned by the sheriff's office per se, but because it is a third-party contractor, you know, that is an unknown entity, I feel a huge responsibility for our LEOs being, you know, tracked by these devices. I understand that, you know, it's going to be probably upper-level members of the sheriff's office who would be facilitating that, but the fact that our LEOs are marked, you know, very clearly, and that information available for a third-party vendor bothers me a good bit. I question, you know, us putting unmarked surveillance cameras. I mean, if something that says it's, you know, owned by Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, something like that, as are the vehicles who normally monitor. You know, if we're using them to replace manpower, then, you know, I feel like them being marked, first of all, would satisfy the citizen component, you know, of being tracked by some, you know, unknown entity. Maybe that would satisfy that. But it doesn't satisfy me that our LEOs can be tracked by some unknown entity out there that is just a private contractor with no really full accountability, you know, no teeth in the sense of accountability to our law enforcement professionals that I feel like should be there. So I'll be happy to discuss this with our sheriff.
Sure.
So that maybe he can put some of those, you know, fears at rest. I'm certain that he has taken most of these things into consideration. Yeah. But it's certainly something that I think needs to be addressed. And that's all.
Commissioner Mixon?
I think sometimes we forget how advanced technology is. It'd be much easier to just look and see where their cell phone is or where their vehicle is at any time. But we also forget that we don't see any of these on private roads because they're private, but public roads are public. I'm not the biggest fan, but that doesn't mean I can oppose it because I drive as a privilege on a public road that I pay public taxes to be a part of. It's not the most comforting thing. I love the benefits of it. I at times could talk myself into being fearful over the opposition, you know, the idea that somebody knows where each vehicle is at all times. And then I open my phone to look at pictures, and I have an option to hit a map, and it goes around the world, and I can zoom in anywhere that I've been and see where I took that picture, at what time I took that picture. I mean, technology is so advanced. If we're going just on what we like and don't like, I would much rather these little black boxes on a black pole in various places. Now, I didn't like it at first because nobody knew what they were, and we didn't know about the contract. And so that was a communication issue, and I believe we worked through that. Yeah. But now, if we were to go on that, I think some of the ideas of the boxes that are in our school zones, and we're considered school zone cameras, and we're sending tickets for times that the school zone light's not on. I mean, we have other issues here that are capturing the same data using different companies, because as a county, we have no rule over what company can be used and what company can't. This Axon, we've used them for tasers for years, and they still preserve all data in a cloud, and we typically don't discuss that, but they keep evidence as well. And then you look into some of these school zone cameras, and I know that's a separate issue, but they're popping up all over the place, and we don't have real strong rules on where that information is stored or how it's stored, or who gets a civil ticket in the mail from some company outside of the state because there's a new statute that allows a breakdown for people to make funds within their municipality or within their school districts. I mean, there's a lot of danger to this. There's not a lot of regulation on it that I see. The company Phlox, they're all grads out of Georgia Tech. With that, they do have a small subsidiary, I believe, that is China-based. Allegedly, there's no cross-contamination there of their data, but I don't get that promise with my phone or with my watch or with anything else. So I think at the county level, this is a hard one to say we can open the box and have any impactful change upon. I'm not sure what the direction would be.
I do want to make sure that I'm clear on when I say, I want to be very clear on these terminologies. When I say Okaloosa County, I'm going to refer to roads that we, through Public Works, own and maintain. So I'm not talking Highway 85. I'm not talking city streets. Okaloosa County roadways. We have no mechanism on county-maintained and owned roadways where we issue citations, whether they're red light cameras, school zone speeding cameras, or any. Okaloosa County does not have that. I'll go a step further. In Okaloosa County, the majority, and I mean vast majority, of the 140 signals, 135 are on the state highway system that the county maintains. We have cameras at many of those locations that we utilize for assessment of what's going on real time. We do not record or house any of that information. It's very common that we get a request in from an attorney that says there was an accident at a signal. We would like to get the video of what happened at that intersection. And we very proudly say we do not retain any video recognition, any video on file for any length of time at traffic signals. We only use it for real-time responses. The best example is when the Brooks Bridge got hit. I sat in our traffic operations area and was able to look at 27 intersections at one time to make adjustments to signals. That's what we want to do with our TMC. We don't record it. We don't use it for any enforcement purpose whatsoever. The LPRs are a little different because that is the sheriff's contract in the county right away. I just want to be clear that the county, this board, does not have any enforcement cameras in our rights of way.
Mr. Autry, what you're talking about there with the cameras at the intersections that you can real-time view, is there a state law that says you can't keep that recording?
The state is being somewhat quiet on it, but correct. Our deal with our contract with the state is we do not record.
Right. So there was some safeguards to prevent the data
Correct.
collection in that venue, but then now you've got a whole separate
The
data
reason
collection.
is we don't want to get in the middle of every intersection lawsuit.
Right. Okay. Other questions or comments at this time?
It still doesn't mean the third party can't
100%
maintain those.
I can only tell you what
data.
I see.
It's just
I
what
agree.
we do.
I
It's
agree.
an honest person staying honest. So
It's like a lock.
The sky's the limit with what this could be.
Yeah. So, no further comments at this time. I mean, and again, this is not here for an action item. I think it was an opportunity to flush it out in the public. I honestly kind of, would love to see, some audit provisions to where there's a comfort level. I mean, people we lease to, we have audit provisions. I know it's a sheriff's contract, but some of them are in our right-of-ways. And I'll say this, too, very publicly, because I want to be clear about it. The comments that I've received have not been negative about the sheriff having access to this information. In fact, a lot of the constituents I've talked to embrace the idea of the sheriff having access to an additional tool. The biggest concern was that it was being housed by an unknown entity on a, some sort of a clandestine-looking black pole and black box. And it's kind of like, I think Commissioner Cox made a good point. There's no, at least on the school zone cameras, it tells you, hey, you're going through a school zone, you're going to be filmed and get a ticket if you're speeding, right? These don't. It's almost that, and you kind of have this distinction between a security camera and a spy cam. And I think people could embrace security cameras. I don't think people like spy cams. And these feel, because of the way they're put out there, they feel a little more like a spy cam. So maybe if there was some badging that said, honestly, most businesses, they'll put prominence to their security cameras because it's a deterrent, right? So I don't know, there may be something there, but I think that's part of the concern. I would love to see more more information personally about how we can audit and make sure the data is secure. I'm not at all suggesting that the sheriff shouldn't have this tool. I'm supportive of the tool, and think that's great. You know, in a perfect world, I would think it would be something we had the technology to house and control. That's probably not realistic, at least not at this time, but I just want to be, you know, I think the questions I've heard from citizens and that I heard at the delegation meeting were valid, but certainly no push to take this tool away.
I appreciate that, and I will tell you there's a couple of lessons learned from the staff side. Again, it was right-of-way permitting. As Commissioner Mixon said, it was public. We kind of went through working with the Sheriff's Office. One of the changes that we have made is that we will not issue a permit for anything that's citation created, whether it's in a city jurisdiction or not. So like the Fort Walton Beach is an example, and it sounds to me like that's kind of the path we kind of want to continue at this point in time. I will gladly, in fact, when I spoke with the Sheriff's Office this morning, I told them, I said, hey, listen, after this conversation, I'm sure we'll talk some more. I'll mention the audit concept and see if there's something that they can help to provide some of that comfort level. At the end of the day, I think there is a reality on anything that we do. There's only so much information that you can get, but is there a potential hole in the back end of it somewhere, some way? Unfortunately, somebody may decide to find that. I certainly respect the Sheriff's Office and what they are trying to accomplish, and we want to support them in that endeavor, but we'll continue this conversation, and to each of the commissioners, as always, if something comes up, I'd be happy to talk with you about it, especially with the Sheriff's Office in the conversation.
Mr. Chairman, so you brought up audit, and then you echoed that, and so what would an audit look like, and what information would be expected to be gained from that audit? And then the other thing, I just want to just talk very briefly about, or just mention that housing the data locally is just such a cumbersome and it's such a heavy burden to bear for any entity. And the reason that these things are housed via cloud services and things like that is just because of the scalability of the technology and the fact that they can continue to grow their storage capabilities just forever, where a local entity would be burdened pretty heavily financially to try to do that and to maintain those, and then we would also bear the burden of the auditing and all of the safekeeping and all of that sort of stuff. These companies are just much better at it. Understand, knowing who you're in business with, and wanting to make sure that we, as Commissioner Mixon said, we want to make sure that this data is housed in the United States and things like that. That's all very valid. And we can make those types of choices, but still utilizing companies that are good at what they do versus trying to grow that sort of thing in-house. But to audit, what would we be looking at, and what would we be asking for?
Well, you're going to tease out my lack of technological understanding. You've never seen me frustrated because I can't get my iPad to open.
Mr. Chairman.
But
Mr. Chairman, if I may, from just a background with law enforcement, there's a driver and vehicle information database now that's commonly called DAVID. And with DAVID, it comes an idea of audit, and it basically looks to see who's accessed and for what purposes. The capabilities of that may be along the same lines, if that's what you were thinking.
So they could be, I mean, I'm certain that these companies, knowing how they do business, they do have those security audits and things like that. They have audit logs as to who accesses the data. They know when there's been breaches. They know when there's been spills of data, and all of that sort of stuff. They would have an internal investigation and a process to deal with that sort of stuff. So again, I mean, for us to have some awareness or report of those audits is definitely something that I think they could even probably provide that just on request. But I don't know that we would need a separate action or something separate than that, unless we were wanting them to walk us through exactly how the data is handled and how it's reported.
The note I wrote was to speak with the Sheriff's Office about the potential for an audit of data integrity. I don't want to be specific on what that means, but just what is it we can do to give a comfort level in terms of what is the integrity of data that's housed?
So, just by way of example, because I think of things, and I try to distill it down to the most simplest form so I can actually wrap my mind around it. But in one of the bullet points, Flock does not own and shall not sell customer data. Okay, that's a great bullet point. Prove it.
Perfect example. Yeah.
So
And one of the things that the sheriff's office sent me as well was a flock safety flyer. I get it's generated by the company that's trying to sell the business. I understand that. But the premise of these 8 points is almost entirely on what are we doing to protect the data? What is it that we're doing to prevent breaches? So I think you're right. They're aware that this is a problem, and they should be able to help us get those answers.
And I want to just be clear, one last thing. I am not suggesting that the vendor has done anything wrong with the data. I want to be clear about that. It's just, you don't know what you don't know.
That's fair.
I have
Commissioner
just
Cox?
one more question, and this is maybe a constitutional accountability thing, so throw tomatoes at will, but since this is taxpayer funded, is it also taxpayer available? I mean, do our citizens know the placement of these cameras?
The contract, you could ask for that. I mean, you could do a request of all the permits that we have, and we show them to you. You could see them on the roadway. The conversation about a signage, LPR, OSCO, LPR, may be something that'd be worth tagging onto it. We could talk with the sheriff's office about that. In terms of who can access the data, the contract is abundantly clear, and 3 or 4 times that it is only the authorized representative through the sheriff's office that has the ability to review that. So it is not every law enforcement officer. It is the specific people that have the ability to access it through.
Sure. But what I'm speaking to is rather, do our citizens, if it's citizen funded, do our citizens have access to where those are located? Like a citizen can see a unit. I mean, if, Deputy Joe Bob is around the corner, he can see that clearly marked unit. I mean, do our citizens have access to the location of the plate readers?
I have a list right here.
I hope not. I mean, some of it may be public access, but there's a reason there's unmarked cars as well. If you really are using this for the purpose of finding someone that you're looking for, I would know how to take another road. I mean, we have to also allow them to do their job within the idea of surveillance.
I would say that is probably a really good example of, to know where they are. The contract holder is the sheriff's office, and anybody would have those concerns, I would encourage them to speak with the sheriff's office about that.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you.
All right, commissioners, I think we've fleshed that out pretty good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Autry, for presenting that. All right, that brings us now to new business item number 3. This is consideration of the calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, you have your 6-month calendar in front of you, and this covers the period from April through September. A couple of items of note. I will need the board's direction as it relates to the April calendar. We've given you 2 options. That's when we have our budget policy workshop, is typically in April. We can have that as a standalone date on the 14th of April, or we've given you another option to combine that on the 21st with the BCC meeting. So we'd host the BCC meeting in the morning. Immediately upon conclusion of the BCC meeting, we'd roll into the budget policy workshop, so we don't have to carve out 3 weeks for the month of April. So I'll need direction on that. Just a couple other points of note. May is pretty straightforward. Standard dates. We're going back to, this is, I believe, the 3rd year now that we're doing one June meeting. That meeting will be held on the 16th of June, 8:30 in Shalimar. July is your busy month, as you well know. We have one BCC meeting in the month of July because you have your budget workshops during that month. So what we would recommend is you have your budget review meeting on the 7th, you have a BCC meeting on the 14th, and then you have your last budget review workshop on the 21st. That also has to accommodate a special meeting where you set the tentative millage rate. August, straightforward. Your meetings are held on the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays, the normal time. September, I will throw one other option out to the board in September. It's not noted on the calendar in front of you. However, you have a BCC meeting that would normally be on that 1st Tuesday of the month, which happens to be the 1st at 8:30, and then you have your tentative budget hearing on the 3rd. We have to host that on the 3rd because of the timing and because of the school board's budget hearing. So that meeting has to be held on the 3rd at 5:01. You could combine those 2 meetings and have one meeting on the 3rd, where you would have your BCC meeting, say, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then you would follow that up with your budget hearing if you did not want to have both meetings on separate days in that first week in September. So I'll offer that up to you, and then we'll close it out with our final BCC meeting and final budget hearing on the 15th. So that is what I have. Mr. Chairman, we'll need some board direction on that option for April, and then should you decide to combine both meetings in September, you can, or keep it as the calendar states, the BCC meeting on the 1st, followed by the first budget hearing on the 3rd.
Commissioners, thoughts on the calendar?
I have a conflict on the 16th, and if that's the only meeting of the month, that'll be a problem, but I cannot be here. The other is I would rather keep the September meeting the way it's stated, September 1st, and then the second meeting on the 3rd for the budget at 5:01.
Are you you're talking about the June 16th meeting? Are you wanting to move that?
Well, it would work for me, but I'm just letting you know that since it's the only meeting of the month, I'm not going to be here.
So, Mr. Chairman, in April, we were given the option for a first and a second option. I would like to go with option 2, if that's okay, which puts the 21st as a heavier day, but putting the time at 9 or thereafter.
I concur.
In
So
September,
April 21st is what you're saying?
April 21st, yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
That way it eliminates the 14th.
I like that.
In September, if there's not scheduling conflicts, then I think time-wise, it makes more sense to go to the same day, have both in the afternoon, to have that completed if that didn't hit scheduling conflicts. As to June, I already have multiple conflicts for a change in June.
Do you have a conflict on the 16th as well, for June 16th?
No, that's the...
The one day you can be there.
Yes, ma'am. Out of the Tuesdays, yes, ma'am. The FAC conference with the yearly meeting for Gulf Consortiums begins the 23rd, which is the following Tuesday. There's multiple things.
What about June 9th? Nope. Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I don't have to be there on the 16th.
All right, so the suggestion would be option 2 on April. For September, combine both meetings into September the 1st, but combine both into the 3rd. And start the BCC meeting at 5, or we could start it even earlier.
1:30 or 3?
You have to start your hearing at 5:01. It
5:01.
has to start after 5. So
After
5:01
5.
for your hearing. So you could have your BCC meeting at 3, and upon conclusion of your BCC meeting, you roll into that budget hearing.
Yeah, it could start at 5. It has to start at after 5, but it could start at 5:45. It's fine.
Right.
So
As far
if
as
the
the hearing.
BCC meeting ran late, it doesn't matter. Is that right?
That's true. You can do
Okay.
it that way.
So 3 or 3:30? Is there a preference? Okay. So 3 o'clock? So, all right. And then June 16th, leave it the same? Mr. Ketchel, I don't know if you'll be able to.
I
but-
can't switch it. There's nothing I can do.
But if you're available to call in?
I cannot.
Okay.
I'll be on a plane.
Ah, the technology's there.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. All right, is that a motion? Or do we need a motion, or do we just need consensus?
You've made a few changes, so I prefer a motion and approval by the board. I'm hearing option 2 as far as the budget policy workshop, which combines the BCC meeting and the budget policy workshop on one day. And the only other change I'm hearing is combining the BCC meeting with the tentative budget hearing on the same date, which would be the 3rd of September, with a start time of 3 o'clock for the BCC meeting followed by the budget hearing to begin as early as 5:01 p.m.
I second Mr. Hofstadt's motion.
All right, so do we have a motion and a second? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All right, further discussion? All right, those in favor, please signal by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. And that brings us to our final public comment portion of the meeting. I do have 4 cards. If you didn't turn one in, you want to speak, if you would, please just turn in a speaker card at the media desk at the back. That would be great. First speaker is Wade Merritt.
Good morning, Wade Merritt from Escambia Farms, Florida. I'm here today to talk about the Baker ball fields. I ain't had no kids in that place in a long time, but it's been around a long time. I would say that the BAY has probably run a program out of there for over 30 years. So I would suggest that they probably know what is best for the area and for the community. Being that they're the ones that has run that program out of the county-owned facility for so many years. The BAY reached out to me because there seemed to have been a disconnect between the Parks Director and the President of the BAY based on 2 different visions of what they want to see at the BAY, or at least at the Baker ball fields. So it sounds like the gentleman that's already come up and spoke about it in the first comment was able to get some direction into what he needs to do and how they need to get with Mr. Parks. I've spoke with Mr. Parks about what they're looking to do in the Envision, and I was here for the county commissioner meeting when they had it up on the screen to show the multi-purpose fields. So I would just encourage that there's a 3-part thing to this. There's the BAY that runs the facility basically out there. There's the community, which is who's going to be using it, of Baker and the Crestview north end of Okaloosa County. And then also, the county itself owns this facility. So I think it would be imperative to get all the 3 partners together to discuss the future of that park, as it is a county-owned thing and that the community is the ones that's going to be using it. And it looks like BAY has done a very good job of running a successful program out of that facility for over 30 years. So I know that the Patriot Park got a meeting. This new thing that Mr. Palmer just went down there and done with that piece of property in Destin, that got some public input. I think it would be important to bring everybody together and maybe have a public meeting so the public can have some input as to what's going on at the BAY facility, but also to get Mr. Parks, involved with it and get all the parties that are involved back to the table in a good agreement of the future of the Baker Park. So I'm just here to see if I can't help bridge that, if I can, and just make sure that the county is aware as you come forward with the next designs that it is something that the people want and not something that, I'm not throwing Mr. Parks under the bus by no means. He has a vision. I just want to make sure that everything lines together with what the taxpayers want. Thank you.
All right, our next speaker, Steve Perry.
Thank you for allowing me to speak once again. I'm going to continue just briefly on
If you'll push the button. Thank you.
I'm going to continue speaking on some of the things I brought up before as well. But the most important thing is the 5 documents you guys are using for this reefing project. And you guys know them. I could read them time, but it takes up time and everything. But these documents were all designed when you think small boats or, as the coastal research manager gave his presentation, chicken coops, tetrahedrons and stuff. This ship is something completely different. And yes, as a result, there's lots of things that aren't covered. And you need to be proactive. In fact, during the discussions previously, Mr. Goodwin, you said you'd be in disarray if you weren't doing your job in answer to someone else. Ketchel asked Mr. Aubrey about, as an engineer, what information or what your thoughts on that. I think it was about the roadway and the elevated roadway around the mound and stuff like that. I've been here now every month since March, and you have my contact information. It's been 100% feedback to you, nothing back to me in any manner, not a question or anything. We gave you documentation. I intend to give you the 70-page report, which you've already had since March, so you can have it. The Coastal Research Department has stated numerous times all the testing they've been doing, paint and everything else, is PCBs. Now, we know oil's been removed and all that kind of stuff, but there's a lot more things you need to test for. Ms. Koch knows this and everything, other than PCBs. Lead, and I told you about the report that shows the lead concentrations in some of the paint. But you're not addressing that because it's not in one of those 5 documents and everything. You need to be proactive. Lack of a better statement, and I apologize if it sounds like I'm criticizing the board or the Coastal Resource Department for the work they're doing. But basically, from the takeaway from the December meeting, everything was significantly, if not completely addressing after he gave you an update, was on a reactionary basis. These were unforeseen. We didn't anticipate this. You brought up other items related to the offshore munitions and all these things that we've brought up. Instead of being proactive, they're acting reactionary. And unfortunately, in my opinion, and no disrespect to the board, you guys have done nothing but congratulate that department for their wonderful work without asking or questioning why they didn't think or be proactive in these things. The life and work in a technical field, and I'm an engineer, is you must be proactive. You must ask those questions and everything, because this project is something completely off the scale that other entities outside government agencies like the Navy have never done. The Navy has experts. The Maritime Commission has experts. They do all this. They've towed hundreds of thousands of ships down to be scrapped since World War II. They know what they're doing. You guys are, lack of a better description, newbies at it. But you haven't asked or done any feedback back to them or asked someone with expertise like myself with 40 years experience. Sailed across every ocean in the world, been to every continent of the world as well.
Are you suggesting that the safer thing with the boat would be to have it scrapped instead of sunk?
No, I'm not saying that. There are alternatives and everything. I'm not asking you guys to, change your direction. I'm pointing out the contaminants on board that need to be addressed that aren't in your 5 guidance documents. Because those 5 guidance documents are issued related to sinking the skipping Sioux and putting concrete tetahedron. The best thing is go to the reef line. Miami Beach just sank 22 concrete cars. It's a beautiful dive site. You can snorkel. You don't even need a tank. That's the way you do responsible reefing. You guys are doing something 25 miles offshore in Section C, outside the range of the Eglin Air Force Base and everything. So it's dangerous out there. Look at the fog that was here this morning. Sure, it's cleared away, but what happens typically on a day when you can't go diving? What happens there? Mr. Fogg, Coastal Research Manager mentioned about Dan. Yes, there is that. I spoke to Mr. Mixon, and he told me privately, I think in July, that you guys were looking at a grant and a hyperbolic chamber, but you hadn't even had a chance to share that with the board. But nothing publicly has ever been said anything about the dangers divers are going to face, as I've said, and I hate to use that term because I don't want you guys to become known as the diving death capital of America. But this ship is going to be dangerous for divers. It's going to encourage, like kids telling them, don't take candy, don't splash the puddle in the street, and they're going to do it. You're creating a situation that is encouraging unsafe diving practices. And you need to be aware of that and ask your department runner, have you examined this? Have you thought about these issues?
But wouldn't that be true even if we cleaned everything you could think of off the boat? You'd still have that. Even if we got all the paint, all the lead, anything, that issue would still be there.
But if you close up the boat so they can't swim down the forward hatches down 70 feet to go into a cargo hold where no holes are going to be cut and it's pitch black, but they've opened it up. That's the stupidest thing that could have been done. You should have welded the hatch covers closed, punched a bunch of holes, make sure it floods, and that way nothing but fish can get in there. But you opened up and allowed divers to swim down the elevator shafts. Why? A 6x6 elevator shaft with a tank. Why would someone want to swim down something 70, 80 feet, hoping to look at something inside? And you guys all been on board. There's nothing on board to see except for zinc chromate. There's nothing inside. There's not a piece of bridge equipment like they're risking. You can't look at anything. And the worst thing is, your Coastal Resource Department has said they intend to swim around the engine rooms. Please look at the pre-acquisition tape. I just reviewed it again last night where they walked through the engine. I spent a lot of time in those things. That is one of the worst places, and I guarantee you, you cannot swim through the engine room on the Oriskany, the Vandenberg, or the Spiegel Grove, or any of those things. Those are not accessible spaces, and it's just crazy to ask divers to do that. And you're going to be down at nearly 150, 160, beyond the safe diving limits of 150 feet. So these are just issues. I want you guys to be proactive instead of just saying it's okay. We think you're doing a great job. Asking questions.
Thank you, Mr. Perry.
All right?
I
I
wanted
appreciate
to-
your
Cox
time.
has it.
I wanted to clarify, Mr. Perry, because you and I have had discussions about this before and publicly at that while I have mentioned previously that I have worked with hexavalent chromium, I have also worked with the EPA and the DEP on remediation of highly reagent existing C6 in a C6 pond. However, I also intimated at that time that our staff have been working diligently with the DEP and EPA to make sure compliance is being met. I'm not sure that this should surprise you, but maybe it will surprise you that the EPA and DEP are quite vigilant when it comes to, the extraction and removal and what is considered safe for human exposure when it comes to hexavalent chromium. And they are very well aware of its half-life and reagency and continued reagency when that is applicable. I would be astounded to learn that the EPA and DEP have cleared all of these steps for our staff, and we know that they have. I would be astounded to learn that they did that if there were continued reagency of these chemicals on the ship. There have been tests and what have you, and I implore you to consider that the EPA and DEP have done their job in making sure that the reagency and half-life of those chemicals is no longer going to affect
Well, if I
our
may
citizens.
say one thing, I spoke to Mr. Todd Bennett with the EPA Region 4 in Atlanta yesterday because I was in Atlanta. I couldn't meet with him directly, but I had a 10-minute conversation, and I can show you the timestamp and date on my phone. And he indicated that he welcomes any information we have because they had not have addressed it. They've only been addressing PCBs, and that's coming from Mr. Todd Bennett with the EPA Region 4 in Atlanta. And that conversation took place just yesterday between him and
Ms.
myself.
Adams, if you would, please forward to Mr. Perry a copy of those reports. I would appreciate that.
I just want you guys to be reactive back and ask the question, like I've seen here in this conversation with numerous things, or in December about the busing thing or the cost of that went on for nearly 20 minutes. You need to ask these questions. You can't just take everything for what it appears to be, because I've been saying quite along, and I know you guys think I'm harping on your coastal research manager and your department. I'm not. I'm pointing out stuff that I have 40 years experience. And the coastal research manager even said this, and what happened in November of last year was beyond the scope of what we had experienced. That's why you had to hire a naval architect. What makes you think you shouldn't have hired a naval architect to tow a 1,000-foot ship 1,600 miles when all you've done is towed a few boats around, which is completely different? That's like you having a license to drive a car and you think you're qualified to drive an 18-wheeler? It's completely different, and I'm afraid you guys haven't asked those questions. But that 70-page report, I would like to submit it to you. You guys had it since August with the clerk courts, but I'd like to give a full, complete copy that I printed myself for you
All
for
right,
your review.
we'll have to give it to the clerk first, and then they can be distributed. Thank you.
And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. I've told you, take a look at my LinkedIn site. You'll see my entire career, everything else. But there has been no feedback from anyone to me to ask a question.
Thank you. Mr. Maddox, were you wanting to address the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of brief moments. Mr. Perry, a bunch of what you said is just factually untrue. I've had you in my office personally. Okay, you're nodding yes to speak to you about some of these issues. So when you say that we have not had any discussion or there's been no feedback from the board, I have been a conduit for feedback from the board to you, not only on your own conduct and behavior, but on some of the issues revealing to trivalent chromium. Okay, so when you get up and say things like that for the people that are watching at home and the other folks that may have concerns, I need you to be a little bit more accurate on what this county has actually done to get information back to you. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you. All right, Justin Ruby?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to speak a little more candidly to you about this issue because, you know, Steve, he's inspiring to work with. He's been working on trying to save this ship for decades here. And he's a testament to hard work and dedication and something you believe in, fighting for something you believe in. He comes here with passion. I come here with passion. I come from Sarasota. We come a long ways to do this. I'm not doing it just for no reason. I love the Gulf of Mexico. I've been swimming in it since I was 10 years old. I'm telling you, there are real concerns here. You have Endangered Species Act violations that you are going to have to deal with, and I do not see how you're going to get around them because you have at least 20 endangered species that this ship will impact with the toxins that are on it. And no, the answer is not to reef the ship because you have something that is unique. You have something that is beautiful that you can never replicate. This is like the Statue of Liberty that you essentially have here. This is a beautiful thing for our country that is a testament for America 250 going forward. We should save this ship so that it can be preserved for generations to come. So there are other alternatives, and I think if we do work with federal governments here and other agencies, we can find a way, especially with the anniversary of the 250 coming up, we can find a way to save it. And as far as, you know, us saying things that are accurate or not, everything that we are saying has been validated by scientific experts. Dr. Todd Osborne, he's a biogeochemist at the University of Florida. I've spoken to Mote Marine Lab and professors at my college at Gustavus. They all tell me that hexavalent chromium, it is a known carcinogen. It's a heavy metal, and it's a legacy contaminant that will create a Superfund site that will require significant costs to remediate and clean once you put it in the water. Let's not do that. We're smarter than that. Let's not put it down there in the first place and create the pollution in the first place. You know, and there's things that in the past that we've dealt with, such as the leaded gas, the CFCs from the ozone layer, cigarettes. They were all things that were fine at the time that later we found out were hazardous. And this is the exact same thing with the hexavalent chromium. There has not been a ship that has had this primer on it, so it has not been something that the EPA has had to deal with in terms of artificial reefing. So this is a one-of-a-kind situation here. So, you know, we're coming here with the care because we want to protect the Gulf and all of our resources here. And it's about, you know, we just don't want to emphasize money over profit, over doing the right thing. I know you guys want to generate tourism dollars over this ship, but it is going to create more environmental harm than good. There's just no way around that. Sorry. And it's just doing the environment a disservice, and it just really sickens me to see that because it just seems like we're continuing to separate ourselves with technology from the environment, and this is something that at a time we need to lean back into restoring the environment in our souls because that is something that is going to ultimately help us heal ourselves.
Thank you.
And this is an example of that. Thank you.
Next speaker, Nicholas Smith. Just push the button there.
Okay.
Perfect.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I will be looking at my iPad to read off, so I ask for your patience during this time. My name is Nicholas Samuel E. Smith, Jr., and I'm a resident of Okaloosa County. I am here today on behalf of survivors of military sexual trauma, often referred to as MST. And I'm here to speak today on this topic because I am a military sexual assault survivor. Military sexual trauma affects men and women who served our country and were harmed not by the enemy, but within the very institutions meant to protect them. For many survivors, the trauma does not end with the assault. It continues through years of silence, disbelief, missing records, and exclusion from meaningful compensation programs. At the federal level, special related compensation programs exist to address certain service-connected harms. But because the law, yet MST survivors are routinely excluded, not because their injuries were less severe, but because the law and policy frameworks were never designed with MST survivors in mind. What I want to emphasize today is that systemic harm often occurs through inaction. Survivors encounter records that are missing, altered, or reclassified, complaints that stall without review, agencies that defer responsibility to one another, and a lack of transparency that makes accountability unattainable. While Okaloosa County does not control federal compensation statutes, local government plays a vital role in advocacy, transparency, and leadership. County systems interact with veterans, families, courts, law enforcement, and public records every day. When those systems fail to respond consistently or document accurately, they unintentionally compound trauma. This is what I refer to as institutional harm, not always malicious, but deeply consequential. I am here not to accuse, I am here to ask for leadership. Specifically, I respectfully ask whether this board would consider the following: allowing this issue to be placed on a future agenda for discussion, directing the county attorney to review whether a county resolution could be drafted recognizing the exclusion of MST survivors from existing special related compensation frameworks, and, if appropriate, forwarding such resolution or policy recommendation to our state and federal legislative delegations as a formal expression of this community's concern. This would not require the county to adjudicate benefits or assign liability. It would simply acknowledge a gap, support transparency, and elevate the voices of survivors through proper legislative channels. Accountability is not anti-government.
And Mr. Smith, we're kind of at the end, but I think you've gotten to what you're asking for the board. You're looking for a resolution supporting this issue. I think probably the best thing to do would be if you could get in touch with the administrator's office and talk about what that would look like. We could consider that. So Ms. Sharon in the back, if you'll reach out to her, she can help you make sure you get to the right department and the right personnel, so that we can consider whether this would be brought forward.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, any other speakers? That's the last card I have, so we will close the final public comment portion of the meeting. That'll bring us to Commissioner's Minute. Commissioner Cox.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to wish everybody a Happy New Year. Thank you so much for coming out and being involved in your county government. We can't do it without you. We have no interest in doing it without you. So thank you for showing up today, and Happy New Year.
All right, Commissioner Mixon.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Three quick things. One, in response to the idea of diver safety. Yes, we're kicking around ideas of how to do some type of funding, potentially for an area here, but of course that would come to the board before any action was taken. So we don't have hyperbaric capabilities right now in an emergency situation locally, and so we'll see what the future holds as far as the explorations go. The next thing is Captain Abbott is here this morning, and Captain Abbott has taken the place of John Merchant. Good luck with that. John has big shoes to fill, but Matt has been on the sheriff's office for quite a long time, and he is the new captain representative to command the north end of the county. And so we're excited to get Matt up here. He lives close, and so I think he is excited above everyone else to be up here and back out on patrol. So that's great to see the call volume helped by Matt's responses. The last thing that I have is the cold night shelters have begun with our temperatures dropping. One thing we talked about last year during budget season, as we eliminated the nonprofit avenue where we gave away tax dollars, we had the discussion of essential functions of government, and I believe confidently Cold Night Shelter is. Even if we look at it just on the business side, Mr. Chairman, we save money by giving some money to Cold Night Shelters. I'm not saying we need to go back into the business of giving to nonprofits. What I'm suggesting is that we do allow staff to give us a report back showing how much this does potentially save us, but at the same time how much it does really cost. We have two organizations that I am proposing that we do business with because we have continued to. One, Hopeful Place in the South End, provides a designated facility that they use for Cold Night Shelters, and Crestview Area Shelter for the Homeless provides a designated facility that they use for Cold Night Shelters in the North End. The range is around $25 per person per day. Just to take that into the idea that we operate a jail and we fund fully a sheriff's office, if we had one person that got a little too cold and decided to go steal one beverage off the shelf in a Tom Thumb at night, we are thousands on thousands of dollars invested into that person, even though they bond out first thing the next morning. It saves us tremendously to take an approach to consider this an essential function and provide that simple level of service. And so I would like to explore consensus, to ask Ms. Fitzgerald to look into this and come back to us with something. We did speak about this during the budget process. There was not verbalized opposition to it then. I think it's time for us to consider making it happen now.
Looks like no objection to exploring that. All right, thank you. Commissioner Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for bringing the Cold Night Shelter up. I think you're absolutely right. That is an essential service of government that, to provide that sort of safety net, and also, just again on the business side of things, that's a great point. So thank you for sharing that. Happy New Year to everybody. I wanted to talk very quickly about the Windhaven Beach Road stormwater control thing. As that discussion was going on, I just wanted to point out very quickly, I know that we're talking about the surtax renewal maybe coming up as something that we would put back on the ballot. And I just wanted to point out that when you look at the cost of that project at $3.8 million total, $1.9 million coming from the county, from the surtax specifically, and then 56% of that is coming from visitors whenever they come in on vacation to our area. That leaves our local dollars at only 11% of that cost, which is about $118,000 for a $4 million project. And I just want to celebrate that as a win. Again, thanks to staff for looking for those types of those grants and those matches and all of that stuff. I think you do an excellent job. Also, just a response again to Mr. Perry. I think it's important to say that, I believe our staff is proactive. I believe that they've done a lot of presentations and research and work to be proactive. I also believe what you're referring to as reactive, I think you're looking at responsive, and I think responsive is a duty of the government to do. And so when things are pointed out by, I walk into a room and if I'm the smartest guy in there, I'm in the wrong room. We're not going to get anything done. But what I do know is I do rely upon my experts. I do rely upon people who know more than I do to bring it to me. And my job is to be responsive to them, and I believe our staff does that. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for all of the work that you've done with this. But I do believe that our staff is doing an excellent job, and I just wanted to point that out as well. Mr. Peters, I think that maybe you should change your name to Mr. Parks. That would help everybody knowing what you do. And then Lynn, I just want to say I hold an entirely different opinion of you than Mr. Fuller does. So thank you all for that, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, very good. Thank you. I have nothing further, and we are adjourned.